ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is video number 5 on the Vedas and Upanishads and the knowledge contained in them. Topic of this video starts with Satchidananda, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. The Vedanta philosophy often describes Brahma by the term Satchidananda, a compound consisting of three words: Sat, existence, reality or being; Chit, consciousness or knowledge; and Anandam, bliss. This term, however, does not appear in any of the principal Upanishads, though Brahma is often described in them by such separate terms as reality, consciousness, and bliss. He perceived that bliss is Brahma, for from bliss these beings are born by bliss. When born, they live into bliss, they enter at their death. Brahma is reality, consciousness, and infinity. Brahma is knowledge. Brahma is knowledge and bliss. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad asks us to worship Brahma as Prajna, consciousness, as Satyam, truth, and as Anandam, bliss. Nevertheless, it is only in the minor Upanishads that the compound term Satchidananda occurs as an epithet of Brahma. In this epithet meant to apply to the unconditioned Nirguna Brahma or to Saguna Brahma, Brahma with attributes. According to some, the words of Sat, Chit and Anandam refer to Saguna Brahma, according to others to Nirguna Brahma. The former group contends that the words are positive characterizing terms and therefore cannot be employed in connection with the Supreme Brahma, which is to be described, as we have already seen, only by negation. The Supreme Brahma is neither being nor non-being, neither consciousness nor matter, neither happiness nor unhappiness. When the light has risen, there is no day, no night, neither existence nor non-existence. Shiva, the Blessed One, alone is there. Likewise, consciousness is denied in the Supreme Brahma. It is one and without a second. Nothing exists besides. How then can Brahma be consciousness in the absence of an object? When there is a duality, then one knows another. But when the self alone is all, how should one know another? In reply, it cannot be contended that the Supreme Brahman knows itself, that it is both subject and object. For as Shankaracharya says, the non-dual Atma cannot be at the same time both the knower and the object of knowledge, since it is partless. It is unreasonable to apply simultaneously the notion of knower and object of knowledge to what is incorporeal. And finally, for the same reasons, Anandam cannot be an epithet appropriate to the Brahma without attribute. According to this school, therefore, the epithet Satchidananda can apply only to Saguna Brahma, the great Lord Maheswara, who by means of Maya becomes the creator, preserver, and destroyer of the universe. But according to the other view, Sat, Chit, and Anandam can very well refer to the attributeless Brahma, For these words are used, it is declared in a negative sense. Sat indicates that Brahma is not non-being, Chit that Brahma is not niscent, and Anandam that Brahma is not a mere absence of pain. By such denial, the positive nature of Brahma as the Absolute is affirmed. Brahma does not exist as an empirical object, for instance, like a pot or a tree, but as absolute existence, without which material objects would not be perceived to exist. Just as a mirage cannot be seen without the desert, which is its unrelated substratum, so also the universe cannot exist without Brahma. Further, when the Vedantic process of negation is followed step by step to its conclusion, there remains a residuum of existence or being. No object, illusory or otherwise, could exist without the foundation of an immutable existence, and that is Brahma. Therefore, the term Sat or existence as applied to Brahma is to be understood as the negation of both empirical reality and its correlative unreality. The Chit or consciousness of Brahma, unlike the consciousness of the mind, is not related to an object. That Chit is absolute consciousness which illumines the activities of the senses and mind during their states of waking and dreaming, as well as their inactivity in dreamless sleep. Likewise, Anandam or absolute bliss must be understood as the negation of the happiness that we ordinarily know or experience from the contact of a sense organ with its object. It may be likened to the bliss that accompanies deep sleep, when the distinction of subject and object is effaced, and when, therefore, empirical consciousness itself ceases to function. The knower of truth always experiences this bliss devoid of the relationship of subject and object. Sat, Chit, and Anandam, existence, consciousness, and bliss, then are not attributes of Brahma but its very essence. Brahma is not endowed with them. Brahma is existence itself, consciousness itself, and bliss itself. In the Absolute, there is no distinction between substance and attributes. Sat, Chit, Anandam denote the same entity. When one of them is present, the other two are also present. Absolute being is absolute consciousness and absolute bliss. Let us see, therefore, what the Upanishads have to say about these separate epithets of Brahma, since, as we have mentioned, the compound term does not appear until a later period of Vedantic thought. Brahma as a Sattva, existence. In describing the true nature of Brahma, the Upanishads frequently use the term Satyam, which means truth, reality, being, existence. Brahma is being, consciousness, and infinity. In the beginning, my dear, there was that only which is one only, without a second. It is the true, it is the self, and thou, O Sweet art it. There are, to be sure, passages in the Upanishads which state that non-being was in the beginning. In the beginning, all this was non-existent. It became existent, it grew, it turned into an egg. This universe, in truth, in the beginning was nothing at all. There was no heaven, no earth, no atmosphere. This being, that was solely non being, conceived a wish, may I be. As early as the Rig Veda, it is said of the primeval condition of things that at the time there was na asat, na yo sat, neither non being nor being. But in these texts, non being is used in the sense of non manifestation. There is to say, before the creation of names and forms, these things existed only in an unmanifested state. The word Sat, being in the Rig Veda, signifies empirical being. Non-being in the absolute sense cannot be in the beginning. In the beginning, my dear, there was that only which is one only, without a second. Others say, in the beginning, there was that only which is not one only, without a second. And from that which is not, that which is was born. But how could it be thus, my dear? The father continued, how could that which is be born out of that which is not? No, my dear, only that which is was in the beginning, one only, without a second. The word beginning, agree, in the text quoted above does not denote time. It indicates Brahma in its purest essence, unassociated with the upadhis of creation, preservation, and destruction. Brahma is beyond time. Time, space, and causality belong to Maya, not only before creation, but always. Brahma is pure consciousness, one and without a second. Its secret name is Satyasya Satyam, the truth of truth. This remarkable statement points out that Brahma alone is ultimate reality, and that the reality of the tangible universe is only apparent and derivative. The empirical reality of things is derived from the absolute reality of Brahma, as the apparent reality of mirage is derived from the reality of the desert. The universe is transitory, perishable, and changing. Brahma, on the contrary, is eternal, undecaying, and immutable. What is the meaning of empirical reality? An empirically real object is indeed non-real. Like a dream, it has not existed in the past, will not exist in the future, but exists only at the time it is perceived. Or it existed yesterday but does not exist now. Or it does not exist now but may come into being tomorrow. An object perceived in the waking state may not be seen in dreams, or what is seen in dreams may not be seen in the waking state or in deep sleep. Such an object is said to be empirically real but is ultimately unreal and non existent. That which does not exist in the beginning and in the end is necessarily so non-existent in the middle. Objects are like the illusions we see, still they are regarded as if real. But Brahma alone, as being, exists always in the past, present, and future. In the beginning, all this was Atma only, one and without a second. Atma alone is all this. The word this in the text quoted above denotes the tangible universe. According to the Upanishads, this transitory and empirical universe when free from Maya, which, as will be explained later, is the cause of the manifestation of the diversity of names and forms, is Brahma alone. Brahma is the very root of the universe. Seek after its root, which is the true. Yes, all these creatures, my son, have their root in the true. They dwell in the true. They rest in the true. Everything perceived is, in a sense, Brahma alone. All this is verily Brahma. The multiplicity that people take to be real is not truly so. There is no second thing separate from it which it can see. Through the mind alone, purified by knowledge, is to be realized. There is no differentiation whatsoever in Brahma. He goes from death to death who sees in it, as it were, differentiation. What then is this duality or multiplicity whose reality the Upanishads so vehemently deny in order to demonstrate the sole reality of Brahma? This duality is Maya. If the manifold universe had real existence, one could then speak of its disappearance. This duality is only Maya. Non-duality alone is real. Duality is but an appearance, perceived as real, when the truth is hidden. But Jnante Devatam na vidyate. When the truth is revealed, quality does not exist. Duality does not exist. All experiences in the empirical world are Maya. When there is a duality, as it were, then one smells something, one sees something, one hears something, one says something. The phrase, as it were, Eva, is the very crux of the Upanishadic instruction regarding the universe and our daily life in it. Whenever the Upanishads seem to concede the reality of the world, even in the slightest degree, the phrase as it were is to be added. For anything other than Brahma is an appearance only. In the Chandogya Upanishad, there is a celebrated scene in which the sage Aruni gives instruction to his son Svetaketu. Says the father, since you are so conceited, considering yourself so well read and so stern, my dear, have you ever asked for that instruction by which we hear what cannot be heard, by which we perceive what cannot be perceived, by which we know what cannot be known? What is that instruction, sir? Asked the son. Aruni replies, my dear, just as by one clod of clay all that is made of clay may be known, the difference, vikara, being only a name arising from speech, but the truth being that all is clay, and just as, my dear, by one nugget of gold all that is made of gold may be known, the difference being only a name arising from speech, but the truth being that all is gold. Even so, my dear, is that instruction. The effect, apart from the cause, is nothing but a name, a mere matter of words. It is, in a sense, the name, the same as the cause. We distinguish the effect from the cause by superimposing upon the latter a name and a form to serve a practical purpose of life in the empirical world. This name and form, apart from the substratum, is Maya. Practically, one may see a gold bracelet or a gold earring and the difference between them, but in truth they are only gold. It is the same with the ocean and its waves, which are identical in essence. Likewise, the non-dual Brahma alone appears as the universe and its objects, just as from the standpoint of name and form, one distinguishes between a bracelet and an earring. So also from the standpoint of name and form, one makes distinctions between the various objects of the world, yet all are in reality Brahma. For, for nothing whatsoever exists but Brahma. If a man believes that he sees something other than Brahma, he is being deceived by an illusion. What an ignorant person, a victim of Maya, regards as the universe endowed with names and forms and characterized by the interplay of the pairs of opposites is realized by the illumined soul to be the non-dual Brahma, just as the water of a mirage which is seen by a deluded man is realized by a knowing person to be dry sand. But samsara or the relative world as such, the Upanishads warns is not Brahma or ultimate reality. Time, space, and causation, which are projected by Maya, create samsara and account for its unreality. Maya itself is unreal. The perception of difference is the cause of fear and grief. The Brahmin rejects one who knows him as different from the self. The Kshatriya rejects one who knows him as different from the self. The words reject one who knows them as different from the self. The gods reject one who knows them as different from the self. The beings reject one who knows them as different from the self. The all rejects one who knows it as different from the self. This Brahmin, this Kshatriya, these words, these gods, these beings, and this all are the self. That which is the subtle essence, the root of all, in it all that exists, has its self. It is the true, it is the self, and thou, O Svetketu, art it. There are passages in the Upanishads which, in order to emphasize the sole reality of Dharma, describe all objects as its manifestations or expressions. As a spider moves along the thread that it produces, and as from a fire tiny sparks fly in all directions, so from the self emanates all organs and all the worlds, all gods, all beings. This Dharma, this Indra, this Creator, all these gods, these five great elements earth, air, space, water, fire, and all these small creatures, these other creatures, these seeds of creation, and these egg born, these womb born, these sweat born, these earth born, horses, cows, men, elephants, and whatever else breathes and moves or flies, as well as whatever is immovable, these all are guided by knowledge, prasanam, and supported by knowledge. The universe has knowledge for its eyes, knowledge is the foundation, knowledge is Brahma. Since the apparent multiplicity is in essence Brahma, one must understand Brahma to understand the universe by the realization of the self. My dear, through hearing, reflection, and meditation, all this is known. The rishis of ancient times, endowed with the knowledge of Brahma, confidently declared their omniscience. great householders and great knowers of the Vedas of olden times who knew this declared the same saying, no one can henceforth mention to us anything that we have not heard, perceived or known. Therefore, Brahma, absolute being, is ultimate reality. The whole universe is filled by this person, Purusha, to whom there is nothing superior, from whom there is nothing different, than whom there is nothing smaller or larger, who stands alone, silent as a tree, established in his resplendent glory. So I end this video here. Next video number 6 will start with Dharma as a Chit consciousness. So thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks my dear friend. Namaskar.